Toxicity is contagiously destructive. I, thankfully, have never had a toxic individual or employee as a leader of a Vista's chief entrepreneur peer group. I know that if I allow in a toxic member, it will be the catalyst that will destroy all of the vulnerability, community, respect, and safety that I have created. I'm thankful that I've never had a toxic individual enter the group. It might be because of three things: one, mutual fit; two, core values; and three, accountability. Mutual fit. As much as my candidates are interviewing or deciding if they want to be a part of my chief entrepreneur group, I am also interviewing and deciding if they are a good fit for a group and its culture. Not every individual is right, and not everybody I speak with gets in. Additionally, core values are vital. As part of our group commitment, we collectively decide on our core values, such as no judgment, respect, confidentiality, vulnerability, no person dominates the conversation, accountability, being on time, of course, having fun. We review these at the beginning of every meeting, and they're always present visually at the meeting. Annually, we go back and we review and decide if we need to change, eliminate, or add ones as we move forward. It evolves as we evolve. And finally, three, accountability. If someone is getting disgruntled at a meeting or goes against our core values, it's important to bring it to everyone's attention immediately. Additionally, there is an opportunity to address their behavior on our one-on-one executive coaching calls. I might ask them, what triggered your behavior? What could you do differently to change the situation or outcome? Is there something you could have said or done differently to get the result you were looking for? Matt and Twiana, what are your thoughts on managing and eliminating toxic behaviors?
Thanks, Kimberly. In an organization, there'll always be issues that arise. And I love how you established working together agreements with your team. Agreements set bounds for what is and what isn't acceptable. And as long as everyone's working within those boundaries, you can usually work through most of the issues and conflicts that arise. But what happens when somebody goes out of bounds and somebody exhibits behavior that exceeds what is acceptable to the group or the organization? And in those situations, it's really important for the organization to acknowledge it and address it immediately. Because if you don't address it, then what's going to happen is that behavior will persist and you'll inadvertently move your boundaries. What was not acceptable becomes acceptable. And you may have people who don't want to be in that environment and they'll leave. And this attrition will cause the organization to becoming even more accepting of the unwanted behaviors. So it's really important for organizations to address these behaviors and have clear and fair consequences when it happens. That everybody else in the organization can recognize that that behavior is not going to be tolerated. Twiana, what are you thinking about?
Matt and Kimberly, today's conversation reminds me of working with a leader whose behavior demonstrated the toxicity we're discussing and how it contributed to the organization's culture and our leadership community. He was underperforming and would lash out, blaming others for his lack of results and his inability to get promoted. Surprisingly, we found files dating back years that documented his bad behavior and the subsequent counseling sessions. Failing to address this type of behavior is detrimental to the individual and the institution. You both have talked about that it should be a two-pronged approach: performance management for the leader and performance management for the organization. I want to add to those steps for the organization. Take steps to review the policies and procedures. Are poorly constructed and poorly communicated policies contributing to these behaviors? For example, is there a whistleblower policy in place so that employees feel empowered to report the incident? Are such behaviors going unchecked due to negligence or avoidance? Research shows that others are usually aware of the behavior, but are willing to look the other way as long as the conduct does not overshadow their results. And to add to the approach to the leader, first and foremost, when counseling the leader, draw upon your emotional intelligence by leading with empathy and transparency. This way, you can elicit a commitment for that accountability and responsibility that you guys shared. Be specific when providing feedback about behaviors, boundaries, and incidents. Collaborate for ownership of those next steps, be it that training, that reskilling, that upskilling, or even the coaching. Be sure that that training speaks directly to the concerns. And you also want to make sure that you agree on a timetable for follow up. As leaders, we bring our lived experiences to our professional spaces. Our efforts must be dictated by goals for individual success and organizational success. Click on the link below for more information about addressing toxicity in the leadership ranks, especially at that C suite level.